All right, welcome back. And we start with our Tri-State Office Finisher Tweet of the Day. And this comes to us from the Steelers, who did announce their team captains today. Roethlisberger and Hayward, they've been there for many years. Derek Watt is the special teams captain. And I wonder how much use he'll get beyond special teams. I thought that was part of the plan going into this, and we didn't see much of it, but we might this year. But bottom line is there's going to be a Watt on this team, at least one. There'll be two. But I put a little poll out. It was interesting to get reaction to this, Chris, about what do you think will happen? He'll get a deal, number one. Number two, he won't, and he'll sit out. Or number three, he won't, and he'll play. I don't think the middle one is something that will happen. Do you? Would you ever think that he would go through just not playing at all?
I mean, that would be pretty extreme. He'd have to come back by a certain point to get that extra year, obviously, in the league. But that would be a sign that they had, and by they I mean the Steelers, wrecked this situation beyond all repair. And I think it would be a grievous error that I would pillory them for that. I wouldn't fault the player there. He deserves the money. Sitting out would be, like I said, an extreme sort of endpoint to this. I don't think it would happen, but that would be a disaster. I guess if I had to handicap it now, believe it or not, I'm going to go against you, Bob. I think he's going to not get his deal, and he's going to play because there's not much other choice because it's, what, $10.6 million this year? And then he's going to be at the mercy of the Steelers next year. Right. Well, sure, it's signed, and that's the difference with the Le'Veon Bell situation. That never got signed.
Right.
Here's the other thing, though. Let's say T.J. Watt comes back this year, and just for argument's sake, 18, 19 sacks, career year. He's motivated, he's ticked off, and he proves it. The cap's going way up. Now what if you're the Steelers? The guy's been even better, deserves even more money, has even more grounds to ask for more guaranteed. You going to continue to stonewall him? Because people around the league, agents, players, etc., other coaches, other executives looking to get an advantage, they'll take notice, and the Steelers will have egg on their face if that were to come to pass.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it'll come to pass. That's why I think they know. And I think if you look back, they could have done this last year if they wanted to. They normally don't do that 2 years out. But it would have been financial, probably a much better situation if they had, looking ahead to what they had with that guy. But no, I don't think it'll ever get to that. I do think a deal will get done, and I think it'll get done later this week. We'll see. But that's why we're watching, and that's why a lot of people want to call. So let's get right to it. We got Dale in Brookline who joins us on line one. Dale, go ahead. What's up?
What's up, Bob? I have a question for you, and I have the answer, but I want to see if you have the answer. What's the number one spectator sport in the world?
Soccer.
Soccer.
Nope, wrong. Motorsports. Google it and ask Siri.
All right, now what's the point of this then?
That's something you know nothing about.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I appreciate that. And you're right.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for all those spectators.
You know, the funny thing
no
is,
one cares.
He wanted to call, and on the shot sheet here, Steve Banko, our producer, puts he wants to talk about T.J. Watt, and that's what you get. So obviously,
I do like watching F1 with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen every Sunday morning, but because that happens across the pond, I'm sure our friend there doesn't watch it. But my kid loves it. Lennox is a big F1 open wheel racing guy. He says, "Put the cars on, Dad." He's a big fan.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of things. I like to watch, but that doesn't mean I understand every single one of them, and I don't put enough time. Do you understand cricket? If someone would call and say, "Chris, what do you know about cricket?" My answer is, I know a little, but not a lot, and I certainly couldn't understand what's going on in every single play that goes on.
Well, the batsman, I know, it's just a wicked googly. I think the batsman does a lot of things.
Right.
You know, it's very fascinating, these test matches. I know that when India and Pakistan meet on the cricket pitch or whatever, you throw the record books out and also any weapons you might have on you because that could get ugly.
Could get ugly, yeah, and you don't want to mess around with any of those guys. Let's go out to Bert and Ross Traver. Bert joins us on line 3, and I hope you want to talk about T.J. Watt, Bert, because that's what it says.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys. Chris, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but I think there is a legitimate issue about TJ. He's being a little bit of a tweener. Lamar Woodley was a bigger, stronger guy than TJ, and he fell off after a couple years with that big contract. They wound up with a lot of dead money. I just don't think he's the
too heavy,
dominant
Bert.
type of guy. Yeah, I just don't think he's the physically dominant type of guy who you can project to be able to maintain that level.
I mean, he's
in wonderful shape.
Miles Garrett. Well, he's not Miles Garrett athletically because Garrett's like a top drawer freak, but like the argument for Woodley here is a really bad one in my opinion, Bert, because Woodley blowing up weight-wise and getting too heavy was the main reason he started having major hamstring problems. I mean, being a big physically imposing guy doesn't really matter. T.J. Watt, if anything, he's kind of lithe. He's a little bit lean maybe for the position, but if anything, Bob, I don't know about you, I would look at that as reason why he would age more gracefully than a guy that plays a little bit heavier on the outside and is a little bit more of a bull rusher, a power guy. The Woodley example there, I think, is really off the mark because we saw how he was beset by injuries.
And I think Watt is so quick to the outside, and he's a lean machine. I mean, he's in wonderful shape, and even throughout this training camp, during his passive holdout, whatever you want to call it, sit out, you know, he's working on his body. Yeah, but I think even if he doesn't practice all week and he's okay to play Sunday with or without a contract, I still think he's the kind of guy who would make an impact on the game. It may not be 30 snaps, but he still can make an impact. That's why this is so important also, Chris, for the Steelers. They went out and brought in a whole bunch of people to try to help them win right now with Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback. That includes an offensive lineman who was a Pro Bowl, a linebacker who was that way. They brought in actually two of them with Ingram and Schobert. And then they bring in a guy like Witherspoon. They're trying to put pieces in play to assure them that they have a legitimate shot. If T.J. Watt is not part of that, it goes against everything they've done so far.
Well, let me pose this question to you, Bob. I'll turn this back around on you. I know you are the host and I am the guest, but you know the Steelers. You talk to a lot of people over there. T.J. Watt richly deserves it. You know, if you're just talking about how the rest of the league does deals for a Garrett, a Bosa, etc., Nick Bosa when his deal comes up, right? Mm-hmm. T.J. Watt deserves it. What do you think the Steelers' rationale here is for not wanting to do it? Because the production's there and the risk is relatively low. It's very hard for me to come up with a legitimate reason, to gin up a reason that makes sense other than we don't do this and we're not going to start doing it now, why they wouldn't do this. It's not like every player that they want to re-sign at the end of their first contract with the team is going to say, well, I'm T.J. Watt, pay me like him. He's a very unique guy with very unique level of production so far. That's why you make a unique exception to your usual rule.
I would agree, and I think where it comes down to, it is guaranteed money, and it's the distribution of that money. If you look at Myles Garrett, I believe he got like 25 or 20 million upfront in a signing bonus. The rest of it is also, the part that's guaranteed is there. It's just spread out a little bit. I don't know what that does to, because I don't understand salary caps and some of the stuff that goes on. I don't know if that's it, if he wants it all up front, if there's a big payday up front. I'm not sure what it is, but I do think the Steelers understand what they're dealing with here with this guy, and they do want to retain him. And I do believe a deal will get done in some form or fashion. And I know the longer it goes, the more of this criticism we bring up, but that's just the way it is. But it's going to get done. I would bet 90% right now that it's going to get done over the next 3 days, sometime, whether that's tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday. So we'll see. We got more people want to talk about this. Tony in Carnegie is one of them. Tony, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey.
Listen, the T.J. Watt situation here, in my opinion, T.J. Watt is a good player, a very good player.
Great player.
Maybe he could be a great player. But what would he do on a team that didn't have a defense like Pittsburgh?
He would still do well.
My solution to this situation right now would be trade him and his bum brother. Now,
first of all, they're not going to do that. Second of all, you ask what he is going to be like on another team. I believe Bud Dupree benefited. Now, some will say it's the other way around, but they both had great success together. But I think if you remember, Bud Dupree struggled for a large part of his early part of his career, Chris. When Watt arrived, I think all of a sudden that changed a little bit. And I credit Watt with Dupree's production. Some look at it the other way. And I think without...
I don't. He mostly made Bud Dupree, and he rushed... Granted, TJ wasn't playing against left tackles, Bud was, and I thought that was I was skeptical that idea would work. It did. But TJ didn't have the benefit of sneaking around the blind side and hitting unsuspecting quarterbacks. They always saw the Watt Express coming down the tracks. They just couldn't get out of the way of it. What would he do on a worse defense? He'd be by far their best player and would set the tone and make everybody else better. Like, I have my complaints about the guy. It's that they were a little thin out after Dupree's injury, and he was tapping out too often at the end of last year. They seem to have remedied that with their depth. He is an awesome, not a very good, not a great, an awesome football player and deserves to be paid like one.
And we'll find out again. I still think it's going to happen, and he does deserve that based on everything. He has the most sacks. He has the most tackle for losses. He has the most quarterback pressures. He has more interceptions than some defensive backs in the game. He does it all. And I think they understand that, and I want to get something done. We'll see. We're going to take a break here. We got more coming up. 412-575-2600. If you want to talk motorsports, this is your place to call right here. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.